A book about love, a book about something that we should all be able to do, but we don't do very well, and a book about our history. What do all three of these have in common? They're books that I love, and I want to share them with you. Hi, I'm Dr. Rachelle, and I love to read, and I really, really am concerned about literacy. So, at a time when folks are trying to get particularly Black folks to not read, I want to do the opposite and share some of my recommendations. So, let's get reading. Today, I want to share three books that I've read over and over. Normally, I'll read a book and I'll be like, that was a good book, and I'll put it down. But there are a few that I keep going back to that I read them repeatedly at different times in my life so that I can really fully ground. And I want to share three of those with you right now. So the first is Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto by Tricia Hersey. I first read this when it first came out, 2022, but I keep going back to it. Number one, in my work with Black women, I find it very interesting whenever I say, oh, how are we resting? And, they're not always sure that we're actually doing that. So, Tricia Hersey is also the founder of the NAP ministry, which is also about what regular naps can do for us. It's absolutely changed my life. But I really like her premise that resting is not just taking care of yourself, although it is, and it's not just something to do, but is an act of resistance against this notion that's rooted in white colonialism and white supremacy of always getting more, always having to push, always having to be on the go. And I believe we channel our ancestors' desires for us as specifically as Black people when we rest because they weren't able to. So this book has been amazing to me. I also have purchased the Rest deck, specifically when I do work with in person with Black women, where I ask them to pull a rest card. And this one says, as I rest, I must make space for others to rest. And then the back has some information that they can take with them. I have purchased several sets of these to use when I work with Black women and specifically Black women leaders. Rest as a part of resistance has become part of the way that I do my work. I plan for rest the way I plan for all the other things that I do. So I hope that you can get a chance to read that book. And then the next book is one that I think I started reading years ago, and I keep coming back to it. And I've bought it for at least, I think more like maybe 10 of my friends. I've bought this book and shared it with them and want them to be able to read it and have it as part of how they move. And this is Bell Hooks, All About Love, New Visions. This book shifted my perspective on love. It shifted how I thought about love. There is a notion, particularly in my community, about what love looks like and what love doesn't look like. And as a person who is also interested in self-love, this is the book. And what I love about this book is I've grown through this book, right? And so over years, I would read it. I read it when I was in between marriages. I read it when there was a new marriage. I read it when there was no marriage. I mean, I keep going back to this because for me, this book works in tandem. I'm a woman of faith, and it works in tandem with this notion that love is just is. right? And it's the highest form of what we can do between humans. And so as I read this book and as I continue to grow, I take this book with me and it grows with me. I certainly would encourage anyone, if you've read anything about bell hooks or any of her work, this is one of my favorite pieces of her work. So I would encourage that. And then finally, I just came upon this book. I'm not even really sure. I think I heard someone talk about it and I was like, that sounds like something I should read. And I'm not really a historian per se, but I love what Michael Harriot has done with Black AF history, the un-whitewashed story of America. Listen, when I tell you this book, um, I'm trying to put it into words. So it's the story of America from a Black perspective, interspersed with humor, stories from Michael Harriot's actual family. At the end of each chapter, there's like this questions to see if you were really reading, which I love as a teacher. There's discussion, there's photos. It's humorous, but also very, very, very sad. And at the very, very end, I love that the author said, I didn't really write this book. This is our book. This is Black people's book. And I have continued to use this book when I want to check and be like, is this really what happened in our history? Because we all know, right, that history can be shifted, especially when the truth tellers are no longer with us. This is the book if you want to know about the history of America. Um, this is a book that is telling it from a Black person's lens, but also from the truth, and doesn't pull any punches. Doesn't pull any punches. I have a few quotes that I love in here, but I'm not going to start quoting different books. But I really appreciate the work that Michael Harriot put into this text. So. Listen, I'm all about reading, and periodically I'm going to be offering up serious recommendations for folks who still want to read. While we can, let's get these books and put them in our homes so that as people continue to want to ban books, we will have them. So again, Rest is Resistance, Tricia Hersey. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to call her the chocolate bar, Hershey. I really appreciate this book because I've learned how to rest as a result of it. All about love, new visions, bell hooks, seminal work for me about what love can and should be. And then finally, let's learn about our history of this country. Let's learn the real history, Black AF. I hope you get these books. Let's get reading.